There's a lot of confusion out there on exactly how each part of this works. How does your Tesla coil interact with your Graviflyer? How does your high voltage interact with your Graviflyer? How does your high voltage go into your Graviflyer and interact with your Tesla coil? Hopefully, by going through this today, we can look at all those things and have a real defined definition of what is going on. The yellow wire represents the wire going to the Tesla coil. As you can see, it goes down the center of the Tesla coil. It is not connected to anything else, just the center plate, and goes down the Tesla coil and has zero connection in the Tesla coil. The high voltage goes to the top disc and the bottom disc. On the top it's positive, and on the bottom disc it's negative. The pink line represents what you just did to your Tesla coil by connecting everything in this manner. Let's dig into that just a little bit more. As soon as you turn on your high voltage, you're going to generate a field around your upper disc, also on your lower disc. Because both of those fields are in contact with the center plate, it is now going to send energy back into your Tesla coil, represented by the red line squiggling back to your top of your Tesla coil. It is laying the foundation for feedback to your Tesla coil. When you turn your Tesla coil on, you are now adding a field to the center plate itself. Because all three fields are interacting, it brings the total energy inside the craft to a higher level. Now that we know what the energy is doing, let's go back into the frequency and see what happens there. When your motors are spinning and your high voltage is turned on, it then places a frequency into your center plate. That frequency is now delivered to the top 4 inches of your Tesla coil. Because the Tesla coil is an oscillating circuit, your Tesla coil is now shortened in the oscillation of the number 2 coil. It can now only go up to the pink line. It can no longer go all the way up. The top 4 inches is now controlled by the center plate of your Graviflyer. In any Tesla coil, the top load creates a capacitance to the Tesla coil. Because the Graviflyer is so big, it creates an extra amount of capacitance to the Tesla coil. That is why it takes over the top 4 inches of the Tesla coil. By adding this capacitance, you also reduce the amount of sparks that a Tesla coil can give off. So the next logical question is, what's happening at the little pink line? Because the Tesla coil wants to oscillate all the way up the number 2 coil and all the way down, and the Graviflyer itself wants to put its frequency into the Tesla coil, you get a point where you get feedback. The idea is simple. A microphone to a speaker. You're going to get a feedback frequency. The feedback frequency is the highest value frequency in the entire craft now. However, you are still getting the frequency from the Graviflyer with the spinning disc. You're also getting the frequency from the Tesla coil, and you're getting the frequency from the feedback. We now have to turn on our piezoelectric disc. You have to set it to the highest value frequency in the center plate, but not the feedback frequency. The highest value frequency is not the one that has the highest frequency itself. It is the frequency that has the highest amount of extra energy into it. This frequency would generally align with the metal in the craft. In this case, it's aluminum. So the frequency of aluminum is going to be the one that's most commonly amplified here. If you amplify the wrong one in this process, you're going to end up with energy that isn't as great as it possibly can be inside the craft. Because the piezoelectric disc is a transmitter and a receiver, when it's turned on, it's going to transmit that frequency. When you turn off the transmitting of the piezoelectric disc becomes a receiver. It will now take in the highest frequency possible of the entire craft. That would be your feedback from your Tesla coil would be now the highest value in the entire craft. The piezoelectric disc has one more feature. It doesn't stop being a transmitter. Therefore, it will now send a pulse wave based on the beat frequency of your craft back down through the entire craft. I generally call the effect that goes on when you have the piezoelectric disc running as the hover element of your craft. When the button is pushed on the ultrasonic circuit, you are now going to transmit the megahertz frequency to the entire craft. That is what's known as the jumping part of the lift force in the craft. Now that we know there's multiple frequencies going on in the craft, we also know that we're trying to amplify several of them. What is the effect on the energy of the craft when you do multiply it? The energy in the center plate will increase in volume. It'll start to spill out both sides. Because the Tesla coil is connected to all the frequencies, it's also connected to the center plate. It means that as you turn up your Tesla coil, it increases the energy level in your craft. When the Tesla coil is originally turned on the craft, it actually forms a bubble around the craft, holding in any of the electrostatic energy coming off the upper and lower plate. The static electricity will be positive on the top and negative on the bottom. Because the Tesla coil is creating a field around the entire craft, it is now going to start to create pressure inside of that bubble because of the electrostatic charge. Once the charge reaches the rate of saturation, it will now interact with the Tesla coil field on the outside. It will now start to pour over if you're not careful. It will create an EMP type effect, or electromagnetic interference in the room. When you're at that maximum level of saturation, this is the point when you want to take the ultrasound and push the button. You are now going to drive the positive field out of the top and create the entire craft to be negative. Because the ground itself is negative, you should now force yourself off the ground and create lift. It is the connection between the Tesla coil, the Graviflyer, and the high voltage that makes all of this possible. When Alexei speaks about the inventors that he looked up to create this craft, he talks about Tesla. He talks about Grebennikov. However, I think there's one that's more closely aligned to what he's doing. It's the Keeley wave function. That is the most apt description of what's going on between the intertwining frequencies. If you like what you saw here today, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Do all those fun things and have yourself a great day. Thank you.